Hi, what's up? How's it going? Today, I wanted to talk about forgiveness, especially within my perspective as a diagnosed narcissist. And I've been thinking about it a lot, and it's been stinging, to be honest. Even just this idea of forgiveness, because I keep thinking to myself, do we truly deserve to be forgiven for anything? Like, if I've ever hurt you in any sort of way, perhaps there could be instances where I feel like, oh yeah, I didn't mean to do that. I'm sorry I did that. Blah blah blah. I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me or something like that. But truth be told, I still feel like I'm performing. When other people apologize to me, I still truly feel like they're performing. I guess it's just because the core of my identity is so fragmented and not there. I'll always maintain myself in the framework of when I felt hurt or betrayed or something like that. So I think in a lot of ways, a lot of people would want an apology just to feel better. And I'm not saying I don't entirely understand that. Like perhaps if you apologize to me, I guess whatever, I can appreciate the thought. But what I kind of realized is that I'll perhaps only appreciate the thought in that moment that I perhaps just decided to forgive you within that instant, because I don't think I'll ever actually get rid of the version of me that knew they were upset or angry. Because despite keeping that tab, none of it still actually feels real. And because as a narcissist, all I know is that I either win or I lose, like I'm on top of you or you're on top of me, then I don't understand how I can move past anything in a way that's like, okay, they hurt me, maybe they were genuinely sorry, and now, I can move on with my life. I think at any moment, if I ever access those memories, I will still always feel that vitriol and that hatred for that person. And I know maybe for other people it is possible to forgive and forget because maybe they, I don't know, hold a better foundation of who they are. I don't know what that's like. Because when I think of moments where I felt like I was perhaps mistreated or subjected to something that I didn't think I deserved, that's all I was in that moment. And even when I think of moments where I've apologized to people perhaps, or I've seen quote unquote the errors of my ways, I'll never truly get rid of that part of me within that moment that hypothetically felt superior, felt, entitled, this and this and that, because what I've noticed about myself for quite some time is whether or not I feel good or bad, it only exists in those instances. And perhaps this is a contribution to my depression. I have major depressive disorder, and yeah, the emptiness of my NPD. But even as I look back and I realize, okay, I felt really bad here, or I felt really good here, all of those things just fade away and break. And then I come back to, let's say, who I am, within over here, in between good or bad memories. Here I truly am in the middle, just not actually being there, not actually being present. Because when I think of, let's say, transporting myself into a bad memory, I only wear the cloak of I guess whatever I felt at that time. Like if you said or did something to me and I really didn't like it, and I was perhaps thinking of a million ways I hope that your life would go to shit because, oh, you're the worst, this and this and that, struggles with object constancy perhaps. And the same thing happens in the complete reverse. Like if I was ever in a moment, I go back and I think to myself in a moment where I thought, oh yeah, you're stupid, this person is stupid, they don't know what they're talking about, I'm clearly up and above, superior than that person, I don't feel any shame for that, admittedly, because that's all I truly was in that moment. And despite that, who I truly was in that moment wasn't actually something that was ever genuine, because I only think of hierarchies in terms of up or down, right? Who's on top, who's at the bottom. So social dynamics, depending on how they change and how they switch up, I know what status I'm at. But if nothing happens, then I know at my truest core, I am nothing. I am empty. I'm a blank canvas. So I feel like, in a way, however I behave and go about like relationships probably seems convoluted to a lot of people, because maybe in certain instances I just didn't say anything, but perhaps I'm still remembering one thing that you did that particularly does upset me. And maybe in little sort of like ways it manifests into, like, let's say, passive aggression. Don't get me wrong, I'm not scared to be confrontational. I can argue in your face. If you don't like me, I don't like you. Yeah, things like that. But what I'm essentially trying to say, though, is that my, like, the fluctuation of my self-esteem never feels like it's clearly, how do I even put this, like, defined in a way where I feel like, okay, I felt bad that one moment, or I felt superior that one moment, but even after all of that fades away, I'm still here right now. It's blank and it's empty. So did I even have like anything to actually like cling on to? Because every single time I'm dealing with people, it just feels like, like a charade. Like, okay, am I getting my way, or are you getting your way? And every single time I constantly like evaluate it, I'm just anticipating, let's say, when the fluidity of all of these like social hierarchies are like gonna change. Like, I had my way in that moment in time, let's just say, perhaps, but who knows, in another you might like pull like a reverse sort of like tactic. So like, in a way, I'm always low key expecting the worst in people, because maybe I project, but I kind of get this like idea that like maybe everybody else is just in search of control just as much as I am, and they're just like in denial about it. And I think that's why when people like navigate through like, life and stuff, and they feel like they're so, I don't know, firm with like who they are, it still feels like it's some sort of like sham to me. Because the fact that, like, let's say you're still put together even after like all that, is what I think, oh, you're just sticking your fingers in your ears like a child, pretending that like you can't see anything. And I guess this is essentially my idea of like how forgiveness looks like. It's, yeah, essentially that is a sham, because I think it's a sham when people are talking about like wholeness or like whatever, because I simply just like, cannot fathom that. And I feel like it's a pretty lie that gets glossed up to like moments in time where people just don't want to confront that they're, a victim. I know a lot of people will say, "Oh, you don't have to forgive somebody if you don't want to. Forgive them on like, like their own, your own terms." But I'm just like, either way, is it not still a shield? Because if somebody does something like really awful to you and you choose not to forgive them, are you not holding this as like some sort of like shield, where it's like, even in a way, that anger that I feel like is still truly deep within, because you didn't want to forgive them, like it like holds your like, stability up, despite in a very one might even say like unhealthy way. Oh, it's there. But if you realize that, then I feel like, just like me, you would also understand that, like, okay, you would carry this anger all throughout your life, even when you think like in that moment, because within that moment there was nothing more, nothing less than that. It doesn't matter from like outside perspectives how you gloss up in that, like how you gloss up thinking about or analyzing that situation that like occurred. All you were ever since that moment, because you weren't in the future yet, all you were in that moment was somebody that got like taken advantage of, somebody that got belittled, ridiculed, whatever, all that kind of stuff. And you'll never get it back. And the body keeps track of it, right? Like apparently something. So I don't know, man. It just, it doesn't feel like something that I think like adds up at all. Because at one moment I feel like you kind of just realize that, like, for a lot of like other people, they have to live within their ignorance is bliss like lens. Because for people that are apparently like so whole and so like apparently filled, as much as, let's say, me and all my other cluster B homies out there, then in a way, why do you not realize that you were trivializing your own hurt feelings at the time? Because, oh, you realize, oh, you came back stronger. Oh, I showed them. Oh, I proved them wrong. And even if that, like, hypothetically is true, it will never change who you were in that moment. So I feel like, at least if I'm making it make sense for me, maybe there's still something you see that like I'm missing. I'm just like, I will always be victimized in any moment that I've ever felt victimized. I will always be superior in any moment that I deemed myself superior. And nothing you say will ever shame me into thinking otherwise. Because real time, at least within those moments, that's all there was, essentially. So all I have to say is that I don't know if I hold grudges for life because, I don't have like some like, oh my gosh, schemed up revenge plan or like anything like that. But I don't know if I'll ever truly be able to forgive somebody because, as much as possible, my definition of forgiveness, which is kind of like what I said about like other people in terms of like how they think they can forgive other people for themselves, or maybe even not forgive people for themselves, the only closest approximate thing that I have, and I don't know if this relates to being a narcissist, if anybody else has NPD as well and they also feel the same way, let me know. I will only be as content from those feelings once I'm just not thinking about it at all. But any time that it seeps in, there's no like running away from it, because I feel like, okay, that's reality. Like, face the facts. In that moment, somebody had power over you in any sort of like way, and in another moment, you'll have power over like other people. So should you even have the right to like apologize? Because I feel like if I gave you an apology, I probably wouldn't mean it, to be honest. Like I mean, if I ever do it for like, let's say, oh my gosh, the social etiquette or like anything like that, it can only be as genuine, if that's even true, as, I don't know, the moment I say it, because who I am and what I do in every single moment, if I pour so much anger into something, if I later act like I don't care, none of those bits feel real. They only feel real at the time that they're being expressed. But then I truly go away from that and I step back, and it's like I look at everything and I think to myself like, okay, I still simply am not there. Like, I'm existing, but I have no experience. So I guess that's all I wanted to say in terms of like apologies and forgiveness or like whatever.